You may be wondering why I just played the Sarabande from Bach's, what's it called in English? Suite in B minor. That's what it is. Well, when I was first exposed to that piece, I just called it H-Moll Suite, which is German for suite in B minor. I believe called the orchestral suite. So it's not a piece for just flute. You'll just have to imagine all the other voices. So why did I just play this piece? And why did I just play it on a flute that is tuned to... Well, you can't really see it, but that is tuned to 432 Hertz. I found when I was probably about 19 years old, I was definitely out of high school already when I got my first flute, that it made me very calm and happy, and actually also, at least subjectively, I thought it made me look better, it made my face look better when I played the flute a lot. So I never had a flute lesson in my life, so I apologize to those of you who know how to play the flute and who listen to this expecting a professional performance. Like I always say, I'm not a professional. It's just a hobby of mine. But anyway, I was attracted to the flute. I thought let's do it. And of course I was already an adult at the time, so I had no expectations of ever being able to be a professional at any kind of musical instrument, unfortunately. But it was better than I expected. Playing the flute made me feel better than I expected. Not only was I able to make these nice sounds that I personally find beautiful, but it seemed to have benefits for my emotional well-being, and I always thought it made me look better. Now this last part, look better, why am I talking about how good I look when I'm really just an average looking person? What I recently discovered is something called, I think, mew, M-E-W, if I remember correctly. I hope I'm quoting it right now, because I just recently, by chance, found that video on YouTube. There's a whole science to it. Apparently, if you press your tongue against your palate, and you should look that up on YouTube, Google, wherever you search, DuckDuckGo, if you don't want the NSA spying on you quite as much. Anyway, yeah, look up the people that actually know what they're talking about. But apparently, if you press your tongue against the top of your mouth and sort of push forward, that will make your facial bones prettier and more useful. It's actually an alternative to getting braces for your teeth, because it'll make your bones bigger so there's more room for your teeth. And this supposedly works even for adults up into their 60s. Just by putting that pressure, even if you just use your tongue, by putting that gentle pressure on the roof of your mouth, you can change your facial structure. So now I'm done giving beauty advice. The other thing about feeling very calm and peaceful and happy after playing, especially this particular piece, that's why I played this piece, because that is where I noticed the effect the most. I think this is to a large extent because you regulate your breathing and you artificially slow down your breathing when you play the flute, because you need to be breathing out whenever you want a note to be played, in case you've never thought about how this works, playing the flute. The flute, incidentally, is the instrument out of all the instruments that requires the most airflow out of your lungs. So even the huge tuba, for example, requires less airflow than the flute. That's because the principle by which sound is generated in the tuba is different. You basically press your lips together and you have only a small stream of air coming through. Really, all the brass instruments generate their sound by basically sort of like blowing a raspberry, except when you have the instrument on your lips, you can form it into a beautiful sound. Whereas the flute, you just have to blow. You have to have a pretty strong airstream directed at this little thing here, which is really just a hole in a tube. That's all it is. This thing that's sitting on top of the pipe is not necessary. Not all flutes have that. What you need is just a hole in a tube. That's where the sound's generated in the flute. Sorry if that is too elementary for you. Normally I don't rant on and on. But yeah, the happiness probably comes from slowing down your breathing. And the other thing is, this particular composer, Bach, has music that I personally find very engaging, and it sort of takes over a lot of my mental capacity. I can sort of get lost in it. When my mind even just listens to Bach specifically, it tends to be totally immersed in it and take a break from everything else. So that's akin to meditation. It's not the same thing as meditation, but I believe I made progress in my meditation fairly rapidly in the beginning because my mind had been used to doing something kind of similar, following along with music, and specifically with kind of complicated music. And of course, because Bach is so polyphonic and so complicated, when I play just one voice on the flute, it may not be the best way to have someone come into contact with Bach. So you can look up something more famous pieces. There is actually a video on YouTube now where a famous Austrian conductor named Nicholas Arnoncourt, it's spelled Harnoncourt, I think. he conducted the third Brandenburg Concerto. It must have been over 20 years ago. Yeah, it must have been over 20 years ago, because I had that CD at home when I was 17, so that was quite a while ago. And I listened to the first movement of the third Brandenburg Concerto as conducted by Nicholas Arnoncourt back in the 80s, I think. And that is my very first contact, how I really first discovered that there was something to Bach that was just really special to me personally. So if you are thinking maybe you might have a similar experience, I encourage you to look up that specific performance. It is on YouTube now. Just type in Arnoncourt Third Brandenburg Concerto. The particular video that I'm talking about, I just watched it a few days ago. He talks for maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes in German with a very beautiful Austrian accent, if you're into that. But if you don't understand German, just skip to the part where they actually play. It's really a marvelous performance. So yeah, I think I'll start a new playlist for this, because there isn't a playlist called Happiness, because basically my whole channel is about happiness, and this is really just music. So I'll start a playlist on music, and let's see if we can get a little bit more going. If you have any comments, I welcome them. Give me some inspiration for future videos. Thanks for watching, and have a good day!